Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a great show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about the two big elections on primary election day. We're looking at the states of Wyoming, where Liz Cheney, Representative Liz Cheney, is possibly will lose her seat in Congress. And we're looking at Alaska, with former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin is looking to come back into politics. So I want to get your take on what you expect, or what you think might happen in that. Also, let's talk about another development in the R. Kelly case for child pornography and obstruction of justice. As disgraced R&B singer is scheduled to appear in court in Chicago. The big thing is, should the jurors be eliminated because they saw the documentary Surviving R. Kelly? That's what his defense attorney is actually arguing for, saying, hey, this is not fair. It taints the jury. Want to get your thoughts on that. Also, let's talk a little bit about what's happening with wearing political apparel at your job. We'll talk about how Whole Foods had done it based on a study that was done, a recent study, that Whole Foods were actually firing and or penalizing their workers in 2020 for wearing Black Lives Matter apparel. My question is this good? Should political apparel be not worn at work? And is political consciousness bad for corporate America? We'll have that conversation. And then speaking of jobs, have you already quiet quit your job? I'm going to talk about a new phenomenon that's taking over the workforce. All of that, and plus I got some trends posted during the most, so stay with us. That's happening today on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation. Very, very excited. We got some dynamic conversations that we're going to have this afternoon. But first and foremost, we thank you so much for tuning in, and we ask for your support. Make sure you continue to show your support for Black Star Network on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you download the app. Tell your friends and family about it. And of course, your financial donations will matter all the way. Anything that you can give, anything that you can help us out with as we continue to establish this Black-owned media empire. That's right, folks. It's an empire, unadulterated, unfiltered news conversation like never before. Anything that you can show your support for, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, make sure you check in and share all the latest content, as we have a number of things that we are streaming right now. So definitely show your support for the Black Star Network. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Man, I'm looking forward to hearing from so many of you who have said things over these past couple of days, have been so insightful. So I'm really, really excited about what you're going to have to say about these discussions that we have today. All right, first and foremost, let's look at what's happening in Wyoming and looking at what's happening in Alaska. Two big political races are happening right now. This is election day for those two states. As you know, the representative out of Wyoming is Representative Liz Cheney, who is not a fan of President Trump. And then the other person, how about this, y'all? Check this out, Sarah Palin. Yeah, 2016 former vice presidential candidate with John McCain, the late John McCain. Sarah Palin is running to get back into American politics. She's looking to get into that space in Alaska. Let me share with you a little bit about where we are with these two elections. Also, there is Senator Lisa Murkowski, another woman who has put herself out against former President Donald Trump, is actually running. Let me just share with you what CNN was said about some of the things to watch for. And I want to get your take. What do you expect to happen? Make sure you post your comments on all of our streaming platforms, YouTube and Facebook. And I would love to hear what you got to say. But what do you think might happen at the end of election day today in Wyoming and Alaska. All right, let me just share with you, King Keenan. Let's post this quote real quick. And let me just share with you what CNN is saying. Representative Liz Cheney, the vice chair of the House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection, who was booted from her House leadership position and censured by the organization in her state, her GOP organization in her state, after voting to impeach Donald Trump. She faces the Trump-backed Harriet Hagman and 3 other candidates in the GOP primary for the state's lone House seat. Now, a Cheney loss would be a demonstration that, despite the evidence publicly presented by the House committee and the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago last week, in a separate probe, Republican voters remain loyal to Trump, who suggested it's a matter of when, not if, he launches a 2024 presidential bid. Meanwhile, in Alaska, a Trump ally, former Governor Sarah Palin, is attempting a political comeback, and a Republican who voted to convict Trump in his second impeachment trial, Senator Lisa Murkowski, faces the first of what's likely to be a 2-round showdown with the Republican rival backed by the former president. Wow. Wow. Now, we will just talk a little bit about this tidbit just because of the timing of when this broadcast is done. But, you know, make sure y'all check in with, of course, Big Brother Roland RMU later on this evening. And then, you know, tomorrow and over the next couple of days, once the votes are all counted, we're going to make sure that, you know, we provide some analysis. But this is very interesting, folks. And post your comments and share with me what your thoughts are. What do you expect to happen? What do you fully expect to happen in these 2 races in both Wyoming and Alaska? Now, people are already saying that it's an uphill battle for Liz Cheney. People are already saying that Liz Cheney is pretty much gone. Now, she has mentioned in an interview that she did with CNN that even if she loses, she plans to take on the mantle of making sure that Donald J. Trump never gets back to the Oval Office again. She has made this her life work. Now, y'all remember that I've asked this question before, that does her work, her efforts to make sure that Donald Trump is held accountable, does that redefine her? Does that put her in a space where people, not just GOP members, but also Democrats and others, are saying, you know what, Liz Cheney might not be as bad? Because you know what? Guess what? Even in the state of Wyoming, Democrats are voting for Liz Cheney. They're saying, look, you know, she's a Republican, but she's a different kind of Republican. She's a Trumper. Does that make a difference? Does that make a difference for you? Especially if those of you who visit Wyoming, live in Wyoming, or you have family in Wyoming. Where does Liz Cheney sit on it? So, you know, it's going to be an interesting view to see how this situation plays out. Now, let's go to Alaska. And folks, get your comments in, because I want to make sure I get your analysis on this situation as well. In Alaska, we know Sarah Palin is there, former governor. She made the infamous statement that she could see Russia from her house, the backyard of her house. She had a lot of folk, man. I remember when she did run against Barack Obama. Man, she was fumbling and bumbling. Y'all remember that? Fumbling and bumbling, baby, all over the place. We were like, what? I couldn't believe she was running for vice president. I was, what the hell? But she's catch on. She caught on. She went. I guess she went to civics class or some stuff, and she decided to go back into it. She's getting backed by Donald Trump. People thinking, and that's the golden ticket. That's the golden endorsement at this point. Yeah. So I don't know how this is going to turn out for her, but it is going to be very, very interesting because she hasn't been in politics for a while. Even though she's certainly dabbled on some things. She has taken like the New York Times to trial over some things that they said. She didn't win that trial, but she felt like some of their writings about her was disparaging and you know, she had issue, and people say no, that didn't work. But she has always kind of been on the fringe, just always trying to be. And I knew she was going to go into space of backing down, looking for Donald Trump's endorsement. I knew that just based on how she rolls. But Alaska is holding a special election today. And essentially, this election will fill the remaining months of the term of their Representative Don Young, late Representative Don Young, the Republican who represented Alaska in the House for 49 years until he died in March. And so this race puts Sarah Palin against another gentleman by the name of Nick Begich III. And he is actually the son of a Democrat. He's a Republican, but he's the son of a major Democratic political family in Alaska. Begich, who received the Alaskan Republican Party's endorsement in the race, he got their support. Sarah's got Donald Trump's support. So you can kind of see the dynamics of how even if the state's GOP or the state's party might support you, that Donald Trump might still, for lack of a better word, trump that endorsement. And here's the thing, honestly, just to think about, just this thought crossed my mind, and y'all tell me what y'all think on it. I think it's interesting that we don't see that type of figure on the Democratic side, which is good, because the Democrats, the big tent party, it will already just go crazy. But it's interesting that the Republicans are now dealing with this dynamic called Donald Trumpism. And now on the Democratic side, you don't see a towering figure who is dictating the agenda for the whole party outside of the president himself. So this is very, very interesting. All right, let's go to your comments, folks. Quentin, my man Quentin checked in. Quentin Parker, you said, I love the culture show. I have donated. Hey, Quentin, we love you too, bro. Thank you so much for your donation. Thank you for continuing to support us here on the Black Star Network. Belinda, always good to see you and hear from you and just get your insight. So you said, I can see Russia from my house. Sarah said all the way down. I hear that. Thank you, Belinda. I know I'm going to hear from you on these other discussions as well. Mike V, good to see you, man. Mike, you checked in and said, look, Liz is holding the line for the GOP. If she survives her election, she will come out on top for 2024 for the party. Yeah, she might. That's a good point, Mike. She might, if she survives it. This is what they call the Trump test right now. If she survives this situation, she really might. She might shift the party. She might shift the party. Everybody's watching what's going to happen to Liz Cheney. But if the people of Wyoming says, no, Liz Cheney is what we want, what we need in this day and time, the Republican parties might have to start bowing down to her, Mike. What you think? You tell me, bro. Thank you so much for checking in. Sophia, good to hear from you, sis. Sophia Gonzalez, you checked in and said, look, if Warhawk Jr. lost her seat to a maggot, even though she voted more for Trump's agenda than many other Republicans, I won't lose any sleep. But I won't say the same for the others. Yeah, talking about Liz Cheney there. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting dynamic. And again, that's why I said politics in America is very interesting, because you can really redefine yourself, right? With one particular issue. Her issue right now is she's looking like the quote unquote the hero in leading the charge against President Trump. But we cannot forget her voting record on issues of importance to Black and marginalized communities. You can't forget the fact she voted against the Voting Rights Bill. You can't forget the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You can't forget certain things. Did she vote for police reform? Yeah, you can vote against Trump. I mean, that's easy. That's an easy thing. But what about voting for the other things that will move our community and other marginalized communities to the next step? So we've always got to keep those things in mind. Sophia, good to hear from you. Jawan, thank you. Good to hear from you, Jawan. You said the last contest Sarah Palin was in The Masked Singer, and she lost that. She has no business in government. Dang. You can't even win The Masked Singer. Why would we let you win Congress? You know what I'm saying? Say, if you can't, Jawan, thank you so much. Janae, good to hear from you, sis. You say, look, if Palin wins handedly, then the Republicans are spitefully going rogue. It'll be the women running things, and they aren't the smart kind. Cheney, who voted for Trump before, she didn't. Backstabber. Got to look at the full record. Janae, that's the point. You're looking at the whole record, not just a little piece of it. Got to look at that full record. Appreciate you, Janae. I know I'm going to hear more from you today as well. Shalinda, good to hear from you, sis. You say, look, Liz Cheney ain't special. She can get bumped because all of them allowed Trump to get to where he felt as though his shit didn't stink. Alaska deserves better than Sarah Palin. Yep. Yep. Hey, look. Hey, I ain't going for the okie doke. I'm not going for the redefinition of Liz Cheney. No. Y'all allowed him to get to this point. You thought it was cool. Where were you when he was running, when he first announced? Okay. I appreciate you, Shalinda, for bringing that up. Lalinda, you say maybe Liz's political future is at a fork in the road. On one side, she's bound by her homegrown beliefs, and on the other hand, she's forced to play nice with Democrats, even if it costs her the win. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see, what do they call that, like a reckoning? Or if she's coming into this thing like redemption. I mean, hell, she might even just, even if she if she loses today, folks, she might. And we've been saying this, right? Some Republicans just bow out. Some of them switch parties. Some of them start new stuff. They just get mad with the whole GOP establishment and just say, all right, we're going to start our own political party. People do wild things nowadays. I don't know. I don't know. Jerome, thank you so much, Belinda. Jerome, you said they are all crooks. Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. That's our political leadership, too. That's the sad part. Faith, thank you, Jerome, for checking in. Faith, you checked in. Good to hear from you, Faith. Sounds like one of our new watchers. You said, Faith, I pray she survives. She is on Republicans with gust. Yeah. My thinking is, if you on this thing, on this wave right now, Representative Cheney, keep the wave going. If you're serious, if you felt like, you know what, I made some bad choices, made some bad votes on past policies, and you win this, you owe debt. You owe a lot. Karina, my girl Karina, thank you so much for checking in. My sister, you say, look, we can't afford to fall prey to Trumpism, a cover from the mainstream media to disregard what it really is, white supremacy, which exists with or without Trump. Yeah. You hit that nail right on the head, Karina. I'm with you wholeheartedly. The level of Trumpism on both sides, right, with Liz Cheney and with Sarah Palin, is crazy at this point. We're literally giving this dude a name. He actually has a name for a different form of politics. We're calling them Trumpers, Trumpism. What? I'm telling you, folks, the way he's moving with the power within the level of influence and power he has within the GOP, it's like he's going to create his own party. He's going to create his own party. And if he decides that, if for whatever reason, and this could happen, this really could happen, that if he says, if it's so much garbage and so much other stuff about him comes out, and from everything about his backhand dealings to his anything illegal, if he looks like he's not going to be the guy for the 2024 election, and they choose, say, Ron DeSantis out of Florida, we might see this guy get into full-blown F the party, I'm starting my own. I mean, it's not far-fetched to think that. So, Karina, I'm with you 100%, sis. I appreciate you checking in. Hotep Pan Africa, good to hear from you, Hotep. You said, I pray Liz will remind the GOP of the need to keep decency and leadership. Hotep, you're going to be praying for a long time. I don't see, I'm sorry, I just don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening. I really don't see that happen. This party is going so far off, and I'm not just talking trash here. I'm talking about looking at how the party is moving, folks. Look at where the party is going. Who's involved? You got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley. You got them folks. Then you got Sarah Palin. Then you got these state lawmakers who are looking for Trump's approval, and then the policies and what they're up against. And I mean, some stuff is still getting done, right? Obviously. But then there's this underlying this like dark politics that is seething through the mainstream, right? That is dictating the agenda. Steve Bannon is still there. Pete Trump's people are still there. Yeah, they're getting caught. They're getting called to account for their involvement, their support, their doings for the former president. But now it's the cancer that's spread. Ming Lee, Natasha Savage, you said that part. Liz is the great white hope at this point for some. But guess what, folks? And this reminds me of what Dr. Tyrone Power said yesterday about the crazy place that we're in, that just like he said how some black folks are talking about keeping the FBI, like we should be trashing the FBI, how we have been put in that situation. Same thing, I think, with Liz Cheney. We're like, oh no, let's keep Liz Cheney because she represents a certain decency of the party. But then at the same time, the party has never included Black and brown and other marginalized communities in their agenda. Yeah, we can say economic conservatism, but again, that's for their interests and not for the interests of Black, brown, and marginalized communities. So that's the place that we find ourselves in again. And honestly, I'm tired of being in that place. I'm tired of feeling like, you know what, let me root for the lesser of two evils because I don't want to deal with the fact that everybody's evil. I'm going to just say that again, just to throw it out there. Let us not get into a place where we're rooting for the lesser of two evils just simply because we don't want to deal with the evils of both parties. Nah, not a good place. Psychologically, it's not a good place, nor is it politically a good place. All right, LaShonda, you check in. Another new voice in here. LaShonda, you said that they didn't believe what dumb Trump was saying until he got in there and actually started doing that crap. Lock him up, and I'm ready for them all to wear that orange jumpsuit. Me too. Yep, I'm ready to see it. But again, like, it's so much. LaShonda, you might feel the same way, sis. It's so much. It's like now, like when we started to first learn about some of the stuff he was doing behind the scenes, we were like, damn, man, I hope they get him on this. But there's so much. Now you got January 6th, now you got the classified documents. Like, yo, it's like it almost takes away the joy of seeing a man in the jumpsuit because you're like, yo, it finally took y'all like 2-3 years to make this happen? Really? Okay. So, you know what I mean? It's like the punishment is like, oh, okay. Because I want to see some accountability, but here's the thing, LaShonda, you might think I'm wrong, sis. I want to see accountability, but I know there's some other joker coming right behind him thinking the same thing. You know, it's always somebody who says, I could do it better. Oh, he ain't doing it right. That's the problem I see there. So I want to see that accountability too, but I also know there's somebody else coming right behind him. Karen, thank you so much, LaShonda. Good to hear from you, sis. Karen Herman. Karen, thank you so much. Good to hear from you. Another new voice in the community. You say Fox News is gaslighting and they won't stop racism. They are promoting white supremacy. We need to heal and support our children's future, but maybe we should start our own party. Hey, y'all know how I feel about that. We can do it. We can do it. Hey, look, that's why you can watch Fox News, but support Black Star. Y'all hear me? Watch Fox News. Support Black Star. Support Black media. There's still strong Black media institutions out there. You got Black Star. You got The Final Call. You got Black media out there. We just need to support it. If you don't like the narrative, you don't like how they tell our story, you don't like how they present our case, support Black media. It's that simple. Thank you so much, Karen. Good to hear from you. Patricia, I like what you got to say. The GOP has allowed the cover to remove white America is determined to maintain power by any means necessary. Yep, that's the way it goes. That is the way it goes. All right, and my final comment for this is, Davey, you said Liz could definitely rebrand as a conservative Democrat, aka a moderate. Liberals love anti-Trumpism more than actual principles. And guess what, Davey? You know what, bro? I don't think that's going to move the needle. Where you sit in the party is not going to move the needle. What's going to move the needle is real policy. What's going to move the needle is that you're serious about getting us into a better place in this country, starting with the poor, starting with marginalized communities like Black and Brown, starting with the fact that, you know, those policies that you voted against, you need to bring those policies back up into the forefront of the conversation, whether it's about police reform, criminal justice system, whether it's about voting rights. Bring those back to the forefront. You serious? If you are serious about seeing Trumpism die, bring those policies back. Let's not keep focusing on the Trumpism. Let's focus on policies which will serve as leverage and as levers to move the conversation forward. It's like this, the whole saying, if you want to kill white supremacy, then you must promote Black excellency. If you want to kill Trumpism, then promote good policy that is in the interest of all Americans, especially Black and Brown. All right, folks, I appreciate all of y'all, man. We're going to keep the conversation going. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back in, we're going to check in with our culture crew member today, Lee Spinney, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. And I want to have another conversation about R. Kelly. Now, look, there's so many different elements of this trial right now that we're going to just try to piecemeal, just parse it a little bit. But this part of the conversation is about whether you should allow jurors, individuals who saw the documentary Surviving R. Kelly, to sit on a jury. Well, there was a bid for his defense attorneys to say that shouldn't happen. I'm going to share with you what the court said and so much more. We'll have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I wanted to switch gears for our next conversation as we'll be discussing what's the latest in R. Kelly trial. Now, yesterday, they were in the process of jury selection for the trial that the disgraced R&B singer is going to be called to the stand for. This is a trial about child pornography and obstruction of justice. And so now in this element of the trial, in terms of the jury selection, there's already drama, folks. Man, oh man. Let me just share with you what the big drama is relating to R. Kelly. One is that, and take a look at this. This was reported by The Root. Keenan, let's do quote one on this one. This is what they said, that on Monday, their jury selection began in federal court in Chicago, where Kelly is facing criminal charges of obstruction of justice and child pornography. Now, his attorneys made a bid to exclude potential jurors who have seen the Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly. But that bid was lost, according to the Chicago Tribune. So here's the thing. They wanted to try to basically exclude people from the jury who had seen this documentary. I want to get your take on this, folks. They lost. Do you agree with that ruling? Should the jury contain people who've seen this documentary? I want you to post your comments and share your thoughts on this. And I want to bring in Culture crew member Lise Wayne, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast, as we look at this situation here. Lise, it's always good to talk to you on Tuesdays. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. All right, Lise. So what do you make of that? I mean, I know from a defense attorney standpoint, that's, it's almost like you have to make sure that you get the best jury selection. You don't want anybody to be tainted about your client. Mm-hmm. But then you're doing this trial in Chicago. R. Kelly has always, since all of this really kicked off, it's going to be hard for you to find somebody who has not either seen R. Kelly's that particular documentary or at least are familiar with his case. So are they trying to do something that's unrealistic here?
I think so. I think it would be very, very difficult, like you said, because he's a public figure, for that not to taint the jury. Because if you've listened to his music, if you watch television, if you grew up on Space Jam, any of those things could potentially sway the jury. So I would hope that they use the same line of questioning to disqualify people, because it would be almost impossible for you to not know who R. Kelly is, especially now. So I think it's a very, very hard thing to do. I think the judge at this point did as much as they can to make sure that it's fair, but it's going to be hard for you to exclude R. Kelly out of life. He's such a big figure.
Such a huge figure, especially in his home city of Chicago.
Yeah.
If this was, I don't know, if it was New York, Baltimore, you'd probably be like, okay. But when you have a number of people, this is Chicago. The Chicago Tribune had actually, and I remember reading articles about R. Kelly way before the documentary even came out. Mm-hmm. They had already there were a number of reporters that had done investigative journalism pieces about what's really going on with R. Kelly and this ongoing rumor. At that time, it was rumors, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's again, Chicago writers putting it out there in that space. So I'm just wondering, what was the strategy you think behind the defense attorney asking for this?
I think the strategy, of course, is trying to have a jury that's not tainted. I would imagine that his defense, they are struggling right now. He's already been convicted, and it would be very hard for them to prove this, especially since there's been, like you mentioned, there's been so many investigations of R. Kelly and this behavior, although it can't be used in this particular trial. It's kind of been seen. So it's very, very hard for you to do that when everybody saw that whole thing that came out I don't even remember, what was it, the 90s when that tape came? It's almost impossible.
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s when that tape came out, and everyone somehow got a copy of it. So I think that it would be extremely difficult, because remember, one of the reasons why he didn't get prosecuted in the first place when I believe they raided his home in Florida, is because like there was a technicality involved. So they couldn't use any of those child pornography photos that they found then. His defensive attorney right now is grasping at straws. It is very hard at this point to convince the jury that he is innocent. Everyone kind of has made up their mind. Everyone saw Robert. Everyone saw that. So it's very hard.
Hey, Lee. So, okay. So even if you didn't see the documentary, right? Mm-hmm. Great point you just bring up. The fact that you saw Gail in that interview, right? Because that was the documentaries showed on Lifetime, smaller audience, CBS. I mean, that is an infamous pop culture, Black culture moment on so many levels.
Yeah.
Then you saw the memes, you saw the pictures, you saw him crying. Y'all killing me with this, all of that. like what? What are you expecting? All right, here's the thing. All right, King, let's post this next piece, this next quote. Now, and the jurors weren't seated on Monday, but after court, Kelly's defense attorney, Jennifer, and I hope I'm not saying her name wrong, Bonjean, she said the jury pool had already been tainted by mentions of Kelly's previous conviction in court. She said, quote, juries aren't supposed to know about prior convictions or prior bad acts unless someone takes the stand. Adding, how can we be assured that they will not take that into account?
You can't. I mean, unless they're trying to get a mistrial here, with something happening there, it's impossible to do that, especially with them wanting to throw out different jurors from seeing this documentary when some of these women are actually going to be testifying on the stand. So I don't know if this is going to fly. But again, as a defense attorney, your job is to defend your client. And that's exactly what they're trying to do by any means necessary, because it's going to take a fairy, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, all of those things to come down in order for this to be a not guilty verdict for Mr. Robert Kelly at this point. Yeah. He's gone on record. If you listen to his music, he's been in interviews. It's really impossible for the jury at this point not to be tainted even slightly.
Be tainted even slightly. All right, let's go to some of these comments that are coming in. Folks, post your comments. We'll try to get to as many voices, especially our new voices, as possible here on The Culture. All right, Quentin, you bring up something. Quentin, I like you. You brought up this piece, and I've heard people say this. Have you noticed no one is talking about Harvey Weinstein?
Well,
wait, here's why. And this is the editorial decision as one of the executive producer of this show, right? Here's the editorial decision. If I came on his show and started talking to you about Harvey Weinstein, would you felt like you cared? I'm talking about for Black folks. Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, those aren't men who we have an attachment with culturally as part of our community. The reason we talk about R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, because why? We grew up listening to these people, watching these people. They have a greater influence on Black culture than Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey. Yes, I know who they are, and I'm sure many of you know who they are, but it's a different connection. That's why we're not talking about Harvey as much. Yeah, Harvey did some dirty stuff too. So did Kevin Spacey. He got hemmed up in Britain. But the point is, R. Kelly, and I hope we're not getting to the space where we're like, well, nobody's talking about the white man doing it, so therefore, it's still wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to talk about sex abuse in the Black community. It's just that simple. But what you say on that, Lise?
I mean, I agree with you. I think that we do that a lot to kind of deflect from really holding people in our community, especially our heroes, people that we've looked up to, accountable. And I think that when you look at Harvey Weinstein got 23 years in prison, he's in jail. So at this point, there's still things coming out about R. Kelly. This is the obstruction of justice. This is the child pornography piece. This is a different case entirely. And one thing that I don't understand, which I hear a lot of people always go after the legal system, but the people that they are protecting are young Black women. So at this point, you're taking the defense of a Black man in the detriment of Black women, and we can't do that. What's wrong is wrong, what's right is right. And in this particular case, we've known about this since Aaliyah, that he has been doing some things that are not okay. And at this point,
and guess what, Lise? Let's keep it real. Some people still don't believe that he went that far for Leah, even though there are documents that verified it, that there are witness accounts. People still don't. No, he ain't do that for Leah. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He forged her age. He had an intimate relationship with her while he was a grown-ass man and she was a little girl. Yes, he did. Yeah. Stop playing.
As many witnesses.
Let's get our heads out the clouds about this, right? You know what I mean? And I hope that even just having these conversations to look at, and back to what the defense attorneys, he say, well, we shouldn't be able to, you aren't supposed to know about prior convictions or prior bad acts. Ma'am, he is R. Kelly. We've been hearing about this shit for at least 25 years.
Yes. And another thing is I saw a comment and it's saying like, the government is going after, and this is another reason why I think sometimes sexual assault and abuse in this country is problematic. I know way too many women who have been sexually assaulted or abused as children or even as adults. I know way too many, and it is absolutely not okay. Not even just women, but men as well. And I think that we do need to stop coddling people that are problematic. And I think that there is this thing where we want to protect because he is a Black man. So someone wrote that, the system is against him and they're making all of this up and he's innocent. And I'm like, yes, there are cases that have happened in the past where, especially sexual assault or advances, even when you look at supposedly some of the things that have happened in the past, and men have gotten lynched for that, and we've seen people get in jail for that, for false accusations. But in this case, you have Black women who are coming out and have been coming out for years saying it. This is not something that is just being made up. These are real people who have seen him outside of their high school. Like they're not in this trial. It's just random people that remember R. Kelly sitting outside of their high school. What grown man does that?
And that point needs to be marinated on.
Period.
I mean, a grown ass man sitting outside your child's high school. Some people say, well, the parents and all. Okay, all right, fine. Let's just put that aside. The dude had a history of sitting outside of high schools in neighborhoods like Hyde Park and in other communities in Chicago.
Yeah.
What is he doing? He had a certain McDonald's that he would take the girl, that he would meet up with girls. They knew it. He had a system in place.
Yes. And I think this is another reason why it's going to be hard for them to, with this docuseries, get this thrown out. Because again, we're having these conversations and a lot of people have heard about R. Kelly. It's going to be almost impossible. Like there have been rumblings and rumors for years. Yes, and it keeps coming up that a lot of people are upset that R. Kelly it seems like he gets talked about more, but I was like, is it that R. Kelly's getting talked about more, or are you going to platforms where he's more popular? Because there was a whole docuseries that came out about Jeffrey Epstein, and most of you didn't watch it. I watched it.
I did.
There were several.
I think his story is fascinating. I think his story is fascinating.
It's a sad. It's an incredibly sad story of how he manipulated and took over very, very, young women who were in a really poor financial situation, and he was able to abuse and manipulate them. But there were
at least that's not just nothing. He didn't just do that to poor women. He did that with women who worked for Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
He did that with emerging models. that were working for Victoria's Secret, and individuals, big women, Heidi Klum and others heard about this guy. I mean, there's a recent documentary that I just watched earlier, like a few weeks ago, about this, with his connection with Les Wexler, the founder of the owner of Victoria's Secret. And so, yeah, like, we're having these conversations, but folks, we got to have these conversations relevant to us, to the people that are closest to us. That's the only way you're going to have a conversation about this. You know, you can't have a conversation and you naming people outside of the community, outside of the culture that we are all a part of, and say, well, what about them? No. What about the black men who abused the little black girls?
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah.
We can't talk about that?
Yeah. We definitely need to hold him accountable. And if R. Kelly's attorneys wanted to not have people be tainted in some way, you're going to have to, like you said, you're going to have to move this case out of Chicago into a different jurisdiction altogether. And I don't know, you're going to have to get all old white men jury, which is not going to be good for him either. Like, it's going to be almost impossible for you to find people who have not been tainted by some form of media, whether they like him or not. Because I know people that are diehard R. Kelly fans. Even after watching the documentary, even after seeing the marriage certificate from Aaliyah, even they are, so it could go either way. I know some men dislike the women in the documentary more after they watched it. So it could go either way, and it would be very hard. So I don't know what his attorneys plan on doing, but the outcome is not looking very good for.
Absolutely. Tiana, you said a Chicago Sun-Times writer broke the story back in the early 2000s. Yep. Early 2000s, when the infamous VHS tape came out. Early 2000s. Yep. LaShonda, you checked back then. You said, I didn't see it, and I didn't want to see that video from back in the day. Me neither.
Yeah.
And people, if y'all remember, people were looking at that like it was entertainment.
Yes. Yeah.
That was child pornography, man. You know what I mean? Like, let's keep it real, folks. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, that was child pornography. People passing on the tape like, yo, y'all see the dude? That's crazy. He did not. That's child pornography, man. That girl was 14 at the time. 14. That wasn't her. She looked older, blah, blah, blah. She was 14. It's just that simple. She was 14. And that's the sad part about it. We had these conversations, and yes, people are going to know about that. And let me tell you, psychologically, it's hard to get people to have a completely clean slate about a high-profile individual like R. Kelly. Completely. How many people had a clean slate about, when Michael Jackson was on trial? I remember that. You know what I mean? Like, same thing. You're just not. It's not going to happen. You can lie in court and be like, no, I have no idea who R. Kelly is. But if you're black and over the past 25 to 30 years, you listen to any type of hip hop or R&B music, you know exactly who R. Kelly is.
Yeah. The amount of
Latino, hell, if you're white, you know who R. Kelly is.
You grew up, most of us millennials grew up on Space Jam.
This dude.
We grew up on Space Jam. He has impacted our child from the moment we were children up until like Step in the Name of Love was played everywhere. He's a musical genius. I never will take that away from R. Kelly. It's just that having daughters and knowing what I've seen and heard, and it's not just coming from one place. No one is really around him. The people around him have never really denied this. They've never really denied it. They've just not said that it was in fact true. And he has gotten away with this for like 25, 30 years until now.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the other part about it, Lise. That's the other part about it, sis, that, we can kind of go back and forth, but this man has had this issue for 30 years, man, without any real accountability. Now he's getting jail time. But, this is 30 years later.
Yeah.
He had little brushes of jail time and all of that. We can go into the particulars. What happened to the first trial and blah, blah, blah. But this is 30 years of this, man. And why can't we just have a conversation about sexual violence, sexual abuse of our children?
Because we live in a rape culture. We live in a rape culture.
This is what hip hop has some elements of rape culture in it, right? Let's call it for what it is. It's not pretty, it's not nice, but hip hop or black R&B, black culture, unfortunately, we bring that in. We bring that disease into the music, into the gossip about relationships. You know, you got grown ass men going out with these young girls, and it's cool in that space. But you know, you wouldn't not. Come on, man. Come on. And nobody questions. We think it's cute. We like, oh man, so and so is with so and so. Or that was cool.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take it a step further. It's even like further past just rap music and hip hop culture. It's American culture. Like when you watch American Pie, that's nothing but rape cult. Like when you go back and see all of those shows and television that we grew up on, it's rape culture. This is what it is, to blame the victim and to somehow make the predator the one who is the victim. That's where we're at. And unfortunately, I don't see it. Unless we change, it's never ever gonna change. And
you can't expect. And let's just say this, Lise. Don't put all of the responsibility on the victims. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. We see it too many times, right? We see this where why didn't women? You want to blame the victim. Why did she wear that, or why did she go there at that time of night, or why did the motherfucker just didn't know how to control himself? Why the Joker just don't know when a woman says no, she means no? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like change the culture in that respect.
Yeah.
Like as if a man we just bestial. We have no consciousness, no thought. So when we do things, it's like, well, you know, boys will be boys, men will be men. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. At the end of the day, as a man, I should be able to control myself, handle myself, regardless of how fine or how much a woman is wearing. Oh man, she wore this tight dress. Okay, but that don't give you a right to touch her, say disparaging things to her. That don't give you no right because of what she chose to wear.
Right.
So let's work on that part of it. You know what I'm saying? And for all the guys that don't agree with me, you can don't agree with me. You don't like what I say. Hey, that's your fault. That's not my fault, bro. That's not my fault. You ain't never going to encourage me to think like, well, but what about, no. I don't give a damn. Bro, I don't give a damn. Because if it was your daughter, and I always go back to this, if it was your daughter, you want to tell me, man, I wish your mother, okay. Right. Let me get to a couple of more, comments real quick before we take our next pause. Taylor, you checked in. You said you saw the memes, watched the video, saw the pictures. It's not true. Flooding the media was an obvious play at the time. Watching the videos, photos, etc. speaks to something else. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to overreact here, Taylor, so I'm not quite sure. Are you saying that wasn't R. Kelly? Like he's not guilty? Please clarify that comment for me. I appreciate you. Braids Bob Neek. At this point, I'm disgusted with my race. This is not a funny matter. This man is fighting for his life, and the government is full of it. I'm a victim of abuse and rape and believe he's innocent. Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that you are a victim of that. I am really sorry.
Right.
Okay.
And you have every right to believe, exactly what you want to believe. If you don't believe that this is in fact true, but I think for other people who also have been victims, this feels right. Like this is what should happen. He does need to be held accountable for what happened to those girls.
Right. Lenora, you checked in. You said, forget all about that aboutism. Robert is guilty of sin and needs to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Yep.
Remember OJ? Remember the OJ trial? Like this reminds me, because it was very polarizing. It was very much a racial component in there. And then now he wrote a whole book of what if I did do it? So I mean, I mean,
Lise, why did you open up that can?
I'm just saying because
It's crazy. That's just madness.
It tainted the jury.
Right. Rob 14 Rock, appreciate you for checking in, one of our new voices. You said it's easier to crucify a black man than it is a white man. It's all wrong, but that's why Kelly is talked about more than others. If the man did it, man, do we even care about black girls and women, man? We go on so hard to defend a dude who has a history of doing it. Why you ain't going hard for the sisters or the girls? How we going so hard for a dude? What does he put? We act like, oh man, he sings and dances, he makes us feel good. But what about the girls?
Yeah.
I'm not defending him because he can sing and dance. There's a lot of black men that can sing and dance, but they ain't touching and raping little girls.
Yeah.
Who cares? And y'all say we shouldn't talk about this. It's sickness, man. There's sickness in our community. And black women don't feel safe around us as black men. I don't know how y'all feel about that, brothers, but I don't feel good about that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel good about that. That black women don't feel safe and secure around you because of our crazy ass thinking. That's the reality. That's the reality. And I bet you if you talk to a lot of black women about their sexual experiences, they will tell you why. But we want to defend him off because we like his music.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't about crucifying no black man. It's about difference between right and wrong. He wrong. He wrong. It's 2 less feet, bro. Yeah, you damn right I'm a crucify him. Goddamn right. Because he's killing the innocence of girls, man. That shit ain't right. If you stand for that, then you don't have to watch the show. It's just that simple. Don't come at me with all that stuff, man. We're crucifying a black man. Motherfucker's wrong, he's wrong. He should be under the jail. And that go across the board, whether you're white or black. But you black, and then you talking about you for the people, you for the culture. Get the fuck out of here with that. Look, we gotta take a quick pause. I need to calm down, man. Y'all, I can't take this, Lise.
No,
this stuff is getting to be crazy. I need to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're gonna shift gears. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
this is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Woo! All right, y'all. Welcome back to the second hour of the culture. Had to take me a quick break on that one, man. I know. We're gonna get through it though. I got a few issues few causes that I stand for, and one of them is that issue. So I had to we really got to talk about that. I mean, we'll talk about it again later, but I mean, man, our sisters, man, our girls, man, they deserve better from all of us. Black women, black girls, they all deserve better. They all deserve better. So we'll certainly bring up certain elements of this case as this trial continues to move ahead. But even though I get upset, it don't mean I'm gonna stop talking about it, because we gotta purge. We have to purge our community of this madness, of this disease, because it's really affecting us. If you haven't personally experienced, and I hope you never do, or if you don't know somebody that has gone through an experience of sexual abuse and violence, that weighs on your soul. I ain't talking about on your mind and just your body. I'm talking about the very essence of who you are. So that's why I'm passionate about it, just because you don't need it. It just disrupts people to the very core of who they are. So we will continue to talk about it. I don't care. I don't care how uncomfortable it might be for some of you. I don't care if you don't even support what we say on this platform. None of that matters. I'm going to talk about this. And if you're not riding with that, that's certainly fine. But at the end of the day, we got to create a space for that dark secret that has really affected and infected Black families all across this country. That secret going to be made known. I'm telling you, trust and believe me, folks, not running from that conversation. R. Kelly, Bill Cotton did not run from none of that. So if you don't want to support, that's fine. Guess what? The culture is not going to run from that. We're going to continue to talk about it. We got to move forward from it, because too many Black girls, Black boys, and Black women in particular have all been affected. And I want to see us in a space of healing and growth. All right, folks, let's shift gears a little bit here, folks. I wanted to have a conversation. I want to bring back Culture crew member Lise Winnie, host of a Millennials Anonymous podcast. Lise is always with me when I'm getting through those moments, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen a few. We've seen a few. But it's good to be passionate about.
Y'all think I'm bad. I ain't never seen nearer. Boy.
It's good to be passionate.
Hey, man, we don't play about that. We just don't play about that. But look, let's switch gears a little bit because there was a story that I saw, at least, that I thought was pretty interesting around political attire, political apparel. And there was a report that came out from Bloomberg that just announced, and take a look at this, folks. Keenan, let's put that first quote on here. That how Whole Foods restricted the workers to wear Black Lives Matter apparel because of unionization fears. This is very, very interesting, and I wanted us to have a conversation about it. According to a Bloomberg report that has just come out, it claims that Amazon-owned Whole Foods started a ban of any clothes that their workers could wear, showcasing support for Black Lives Matter movement. This is despite Amazon founder Jeff Bezos saying publicly he was for it. This is very interesting. Now, this report here looked at what happened in the summer of 2020, where Whole Foods, they instituted a ban on its workers wearing BLM apparel after workers started wearing masks and shirts. Now, a group of employees then sued the company, citing the company had previously allowed workers to wear pride flags to show support for their LGBTQ plus co-workers, and their enforcement was selective. Wow. As a result of that, Whole Foods had implemented a broader ban in October of 2020, prohibiting their employees from wearing any kind of logo, slogan, messaging, flags, or any type of symbol. Some believe this was because of customers' objections, but the report from Bloomberg alleges an internal email Whole Foods felt, based on an internal email, that Whole Foods felt that the slogan paved the way for more unionization. Wow. So my question is, looking at this, and I want to pose this to our watchers and to you, Lise, that should companies allow workers to wear political apparel? That's the first part. And then the second part, I think, is political consciousness bad for corporate America?
I think to answer your first question, it depends. So I think it depends on where you are and what you do, because it also goes both ways. So if you wear a Black Lives Matter pin, you can also wear a MAGA pin. And if you see that your nurse or your doctor or your dentist is wearing a MAGA pin, Make America Great Again pin, it might a Beluga Boys pin, it's gonna give you pause. So I think it depends on what it is and what it is that you actually do. For, because you wouldn't necessarily want a judge to wear a pin. You wouldn't, want a police officer to wear a pin, like those types of things. Or maybe you do, because that might help you out in a traffic stop. But I think that it just really depends upon what it is that you actually do. For the next question that you ask, I think that, yes, companies and organizations should be more conscious about what they're putting out in the world. They are dictating laws now. They're dictating what we are able to do, and we work for them, so they manage how much money we have. They should be more conscious about what they're putting out in the world. They should be more conscious about who they are supporting politically. I agree that they should be more involved in these issues, at least to give back, especially if you have a large amount of employees who are engaged in a certain topic. But I think that it is a slippery slope for corporations and businesses, because at the same token, as you helping one, it's capitalism. So they don't want to lose out on customers and on money. So it does put them, it's a double-edged sword, because we saw this again with Starbucks. I think Starbucks did the same thing, where you could wear the LGBTQ pins, but they didn't want you to wear the Black Lives Matter pins. So for whatever reason, the Black Lives Matter scares people, which I'm not really sure why that is, because the LGBTQ, it shouldn't be like political, it shouldn't be controversial, but it can be. So I think that it does show that we have a big issue with race in this country, or at least making sure that things are equitable. And they are afraid. Andy Jassy, who's the new CEO of Amazon, they do not want you to unionize. Jeff Bezos did not want a unionization in their company. And with Black Lives Matter, there's a big movement behind it. And I think that's where the fear was, because in 2020, things were moving, things were changing. They were pushing people to make things change. And I think that's what scared them.
See, this is why I think why the workplace is suffering right now. There are so many conversations about the politics, the culture of workplaces, right? Because workplaces just want you to completely negate yourself at the expense of their bottom line. They want you to, you come in there and you're just a widget. You know what I mean? You just come in there and you're just another clog on the wheel. And if you want, and I'm saying this to big and small companies, if you want people to work for you, you got to give them space to be who they are, right? Now, of course, there has to be some guidelines and some boundaries on that. But and when I look at Whole Foods, most people would think that Whole Foods is this very like artsy, very liberal, very, be yourself type of space, you know what I'm saying, who welcomes the voices of all communities, whether you are Black, whether you're brown, whether you're part of LGBTQ. I mean, they probably have Stop Asian Hate posters in some of their stores and all of this stuff. But then you want to operate, you give this image that you are like this very all-inclusive, open brand. But then you want to, behind the scenes, it's like you're super conservative. You got to wear your hair a certain way. You got to wear this type of thing. And I think that's why so many people are walking away, because we're tired of negating ourselves in the workplace. Now, I get it. Politics and religion, everybody say, those two things don't have any places in the workspace. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Most people aren't even religious anymore, to be honest with you. So that may have to change. And political, how can the CEO of any company say that they don't want their employees to be political, but your ass might be saying something political? You might stand with Donald Trump. You might stand with Joe Biden. You might put the stock into this cause, or you might not. You might invest in that cause. But it's confusing for one, and then more importantly, it disempowers people for wanting to be themselves. And I think that's the big thing about this conversation that I think, right? Like back in 2020, everybody was talking about Black Lives Matter. Everybody was some people were like, all lives matter, right? But what was the people really look at it, even with Kaepernick, it's like, it's talking about fairness. It's talking about police brutality. Why is that such a fear? That you want to talk about fairness, you want to talk about treating people equitably. Oh, I know why. Because your company ain't doing it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you don't want people to have that conscience. Like now, they start looking at the police department. Then they be like, wait a minute, hold up. It's a company I'm working for. Where's the justice? So-and-so been working here for 10 years and they ain't get a raise, but this person just came through the door and they already got 2 promotions. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. So now you want people, and this is the thing, y'all can push back on it if you want to, share your thought. But I think that's part of the reason. Like, you don't want to get into a space where workers are starting to question the policies of companies. And as a result of that, you know what I mean? Now unionization talks start to happen.
It's absolutely that's absolutely the reason, because in 2020, like, this is a grassroots. The LGBTQ has been going on since the 70s and the 80s. So this is a long going, movement or cause. Whereas for Black Lives Matter, it really picked up steam in 2020. And so they were seeing people that were really unionizing together, and they were mobilizing in order to make things fair and equitable. And you mentioned that Whole Foods seems like this very liberal, very, no shoes, flower store. But at the same time, you also have to realize when you look at where Whole Foods is, it's in affluent white neighborhoods. This is not something that they want to see. They don't want to see that. You do have to take into account that those are their customers. They're not playing into a base that are people of color. They're not playing into a base of marginalized communities and people, mostly affluent neighborhoods that can afford to pay $15 for an orange. Those are the people that they are talking to, and they don't want to see that. And when you look at being able to unionize together, employees, they have the right to unionize, and it's protected by law. But it's a democratic process that requires that employees have the right to vote and do that. You see that Amazon has shut that down time and time and time again. And I don't know if Whole Foods was always like this, or if it changed once it actually got eaten up or merged or acquired into Amazon. That's another thing that you have to look at as well.
Yeah. Mike, is there a concern that you think that people should have least that as much as we're in a space where how we work is constantly being redefined, that there are going to be even more restrictions on people? And the reason I'm asking that, I read a little piece just before we started the show today. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, and he had a client call last week, and he was talking about remote work. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that remote work slows down people. It two things, that it makes decision making even harder, and it causes people to be less honest about their work. Now, with JP Morgan, for example, their thinking is they do, like, I think 40% of their workforce can do remote work, but they're asking for 60% of their workforce to come back into the office. And we're seeing more and more companies kind of really taking a very hard stance on remote work, like Elon Musk. He said, no, you need to do your time in the office and all of these things. So my point is, when we're seeing this cultural shift of working, being challenged and changing, but we're starting to see even more of some of the bigger companies putting even more restrictions. How do you think that's going to pan out for the worker?
I think that we're in a gig economy. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people felt in the Great Resignation, which was, vocally put into wax by the great Beyonce with Break My Soul. But I don't think that people realize how much the employers still impact what you do. I think a lot of people thought leaving their jobs and being free and being, a contractor was going to make them better off, and it didn't. And so I think that in the future, employees and employers have to communicate with one another in a way that works for both of them. And honestly, I don't know where they got that from, because there's been multiple studies that have shown that working from home or remote work actually increases productivity. People actually work more when they're at home. Well,
so I've seen that. I've heard that too. You're right. You're absolutely right.
So I don't know where he got that from. I think there's a lack of control, of course, when an employee is at home or remote and you can't watch everything that they do. But I think that this will change in the future. And I think you will see more employers offer remote work because they need to attract and retain employees. Right now, it is hard to get employees to stay, and it is hard to get employees to come in and to apply for jobs. So right now, we're seeing like this holdout, which honestly, people thought that they had the upper advantage, but when they looked at the data, they did not. So it is impacting people. People are struggling even more. They don't have health care. They don't have benefits. They're not saving for retirement now. There's a lot of things that impact the workers, and the employers actually in this phase actually got more control, because now they impact how much you make and control what you can and cannot do on a larger scale, because now a lot of people had to go back into the workforce and they were more desperate. So I honestly hope that we will see more of the remote work. I think we will, because it's just cheaper. The overhead costs.
No doubt. All right, let's go to some comments from our watchers, folks checking in. Taylor, you said, do Whole Foods staff have uniforms? The end. I don't think they do.
They have aprons.
They have the apron, but I don't think they have like a whole like shirt and pants. I've seen them wear a t-shirt with the apron and some jeans on.
Yeah, I think they just.
I don't think they have like a uniform shirt though.
They make I don't know. I know they have aprons though.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. I did. Yeah, definitely the apron. Janine, you checked in and said, look, politics and religion don't belong in the workplace. Do your job and keep it pushing. I mean, I get it. But self-expression, like how you not going to say politics, and I'm not saying you got to go into deep, but if somebody wears a button and that offends somebody because you wear a button, oh my gosh, I'm so offended. Bruh, as soon as you walk out the door, you're going to be just completely appalled. like wearing a button, wearing a shirt that says something should not be so offensive. Like, oh my God, can you not confront me with that messaging? I mean, I just can't take it. Like, you are some weak people. Okay. That doesn't, like, I just don't get that. I don't get that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, but again, my thinking is, how much more do you want workers to shave off of themselves and who they are? You know what I mean? And I think that's the part about it. Yes, politics and religion can get into a very slippery slope. So we could definitely need some guidelines. But, you know, you're asking for people to work longer hours or work even in spite of public health issues. You're asking, you're not paying people enough for what they're worth. You're dictating how they should, you know, act and how they should, you know, operate within a given space. And then when national moments like what we saw in 2020 come up, it could happen now, right? When national things come up, you know, you don't give people the space to just simply express themselves, especially when the CEO comes out and says, I'm publicly for it. Like, that's the most ass backwards thing.
Yeah, and in 2020, I think Jeff Bezos had stepped down or was getting ready to step down. I think Jassy was in control at that point. But I think, well, Jeff Bezos does a lot of things that contradict them. So let's just call it what it is. He's for the environment, but yeah, he takes down a bridge to get his boat through. Like, nothing he says really makes a ton of sense. So I'm not going to, you know, say that, but I think that she does have a point. I think that when it comes to businesses, we are in a capitalistic society. They do not want to offend their customers and their clientele. And so they don't want you to wear anything, and anything can become political. Like if you have Save the Trees on your, like, let's say you have a Save the Trees button, somebody could look at that as political. Like, oh, they're for the Green New Deal. I don't like that. Anything can become political. And unfortunately, I think the only benefit is to not, she's kind of right, like to have that straight to the point.
But that's not so don't put yourself, don't you know, position your brand, your company, don't make it seem like that. Like, tell people the truth. Like, if you come here, we want you to whitewash yourself. Tell people that, man. Like, don't try to position, you know, put your imaging out there like, yeah, here at this company, we stand with all people. And then the moment an employee stands with somebody, you're like, no, we didn't say those people.
Like, I feel like this is just what companies do. We in capitalism, you've seen like Oscar Mayer has an all natural organic hot dog. What the hell is that? Like, you can brand yourself as whatever it is you want it to be. If you want to be healthy, a healthy hot dog, you can do that. Like, companies.
What's wrong with a healthy hot dog, Lise? Nothing's wrong with a healthy hot dog.
A healthy hot dog, really?
Really? Oh, so hot dogs have to be unhealthy? Okay, Lise. Okay.
Really, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And so I think that in some ways that's true. Like, you do need that division between it, and we need to read our contracts, because sometimes they're telling you you can't do this when it doesn't actually say that. So we do need to know what's in it. We don't read it. We just sign it. And sometimes it's like, that's not a part of my job. When you signed a contract and you're like, oh, but it is. So that's another part of it. And I think that's why we do need unions, and we do need to unionize because of things like this, where the union can come in and say, hey, well, they can wear these pins and here's why. Right.
Okay. Mike, you checked in and said, look, complete violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. BLM shirts aren't political. They are humanitarian. That has been politicized by the far right, Farajii. They could have. I mean, look, again, BLM is one of those conversations. I think it's an organization and a conversation that just brings up a lot of different viewpoints, right? So, and like, if you just like, if you say all lives matter, it might not be as controversial. It could be.
No, it is. Just say all lives matter anywhere it is. I guarantee you. Parents just pop up out the trees.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I disagree with it. I'm just saying, like, you know, I think companies need to figure out like the best way to navigate through these very highly charged political, times that we're in right now. I think companies need to also figure out, okay, how do I empower my employees so that way they don't feel like that when they're coming to work, and I know some people say, well, when you come to work, you're supposed to just do your job. But if you think about the amount of time that we spend at our jobs, and there are a number of there's a bunch of data around this, we spend more time at our job than we do at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are denying who you are for the majority of your day, 5-6 days a week, how are you going to feel if you worked at a job at 1 year or 2 years or 5 years? You're going to be a shell of your former self. You're going to be so conditioned to deny who you are. You're going to be so conditioned to not think about the way the world is working. Like, there has to be a balance between that. You can't, jobs shouldn't expect all of you. And you ever, and at least I'm sure you probably come across these individuals. They take their job so seriously. They ask you to do something, and you're like, okay, I'll take it. You need to take it right now. And they're like all in for the job. And then I look back at these people and I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, you ain't got a life.
Right.
Like, when I go home, I got a whole family. I'm not thinking about the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met
I don't wake up. I don't go to sleep thinking about the job. Like, when I leave this place, I'm gone. Like,
right. Right. And I agree with that.
They all in on the job. And I don't think that's not healthy, nor is that realistic to expect everybody that comes through the door to be all in, working 60, 70 hours a week, always available 24 hours a day. Man, please.
Yeah.
In 2022? Nah, dog.
I think there should be a balance, but I think that balance is still going to upset people, because then Black Lives Matter, then you have to include the All Lives Matter people and the Dog Lives Matter people. Like, everybody's going to have something like it, and then people are going to be offended either way. I feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And to go back to Mike's point, I don't think that it's in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act unless they're only targeting Black people specifically, and they're making them take, because Muslim people be white to be wearing them. It's amazing now that a lot of the times, like, they co-opted the movement. Most people be white, but I think that they might be going down the slippery slope of violating the National Labor Relations Act, Section 7 and 8, but I don't think it's the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, that might be true. There we go. Rashida, you checked in. Good to hear from you, Rashida. You say these companies are quick to support the LGBTQ plus community, but not the Black community, who spends more money in these stores than any culture combined. And that's the other thing. That is the other thing, right? And that was one of the points of the lawsuits against Whole Foods. You can't be selective about who you say we can show our support for. Janine, thank you so much, Rashida, for that one. Janine, you say ethical stances don't have anything to do with politics. Either you are treating people fairly or you are not in regards to a company. Exactly. But the moment you start to think about, and I'm going back to this point, Janine, The moment you start to think about whether somebody else is treating people fairly, you're going to start to think about your own situation. Like, wow, I'm part of this company. Am I being treated fairly? And that's the fear. And that's what, and if you know, I don't know Jeff Bezos, but I know that those type of, like, because of his view on unionizing and some of the things I've heard him say, he just wants you to, and I'm not going to paint a broad stroke with him of him being like this miserly tyrant of a boss, but not allowing your employees to express themselves, to organize, to create, because unions really help to create a better working environment, right? If you look at it, it's not always about taking down a man. It's about, I'm working for your company. I want to work under the best circumstances. I want to work with the best wages. What's wrong with that? Why is that seem to be a threat instead of an opportunity to be better?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Let me see here. Nisa, you said Whole Foods is part of a major corporation, not a local farmers market co-op. So I expect nothing less. They are enforcing their worldview. And if we want to express ours, it's simple. Don't work for them. Bing bong.
True. That's very
and people say, well, if you sign the agreement, if you sign your company contract, we're talking about hourly work here, folks. We're not talking about salary work. We're talking about people who are on the store floors. We're talking about hourly workers. You're expecting, again, don't expect people to give up all of themselves, all of their time, all of their insight, all of their talents for hourly work. So you expect people and you pay them $12 an hour. Oh, you might pay them $15 an hour. That still ain't enough.
Or minimum wage hourly work, because you could get paid $100 an hour, but which is a lot of money. But minimum wage hourly workers should have some freedoms, something to keep them there. You want your employees to work hard for you and to work for a long period of time. They're not gonna do that. Yeah, they're not going to do that if they feel stifled and they can't eat and they can't have vacation.
So you're going to stifle my self-expression. You're going to pay me this BS wage, right? And you want me to come to work every day and have a smile for people who are quote unquote complaining about who I am and how I do my job. But you want me to smile. You want me to smile.
Yeah.
Please. That's why I'm sure you probably read this too, Lise. That's why millennials and Gen Xers and all them folks are just saying, no, we're not doing that. You get 1 year of my life, 2 years max. Then I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna kind of go into that later on in the show about them kind of like slowly putting up the church finger and walking out the door. So.
We got to talk about that. Let's talk about that. All right, look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about a phenomenon that you may not have known is a phenomenon, but you actually probably have actually done it yourself. Have you started quiet quitting at your job? You might be wondering, what is that? I'll share with you the details. I know Lisa's done it at her job. I can just tell she's one of them quiet quitters. Let me tell you, I'm a quiet quitter as well. So are you a quiet quitter? We'll have that conversation. And of course, I got trends, posts, and doing. So stay with us. That's all coming at you in the final few minutes of today's show here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We just had a conversation talking about Amazon, Whole Foods, and wearing political apparel. Well, there's another trend that is happening in workplace that I think that we should all be cognizant of, which is this trend of quiet quitting. Are you familiar with this, folks? And Keenan, let's post that on the screen, and then also let's bring back our culture crew member, Lise Winnie, for this part of the conversation. But quiet quitting, Keenan, let's share with people. According to the reports, the new form of quitting sees people keeping their jobs, but mentally stepping back from the burden of work. For example, working the bare minimum number of hours and not making their job an important center of their lives. Now, according to Clayton Ferris, a freelance writer, he said he heard about the trend on TikTok where the hashtag quiet quitting has been posted more than 3 million times. Burned out employees quiet quitting on their jobs, Lise. First and foremost, at least I want to get all up in your business real quick. Have you ever quiet quitted on your job?
No, I know you were saying that I look like a quiet quitter. I'm more of a loud quitter. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not really a quiet quitter. But I probably have in the past where you're just kind of there till you don't have to be there anymore, and then you're looking like you on LinkedIn while you're at work until
you on Indeed, like, yeah, you work the guy. I'm gonna get that document. Hold on, I gotta send my resume real quick.
I think more people probably do this than we know, because a lot of companies, like we were just talking about, don't care about their employees the way that they should. They look at them as a number. They look at them as they're replaceable. You're not really part of a company. And so if you feel disconnected, but you can't leave because you can't just up and leave until you got something else. This is, I think, a better option than ghosting, which is also something that's happening a lot, where people, they go to lunch and then it's like, you seen Tim? Like, that's something that's happening too. So this is a better option, I would say, right?
Look, it's a huge option. Let me just tell you though, I've done it. I know people that have done it. And this is why, going back to that statement about what quiet quitting is, no job is going to be, look, I love what I do. So I work in media, but I have worked at other places, especially for nonprofit organizations and stuff. And everything that every job has this thing, like certain things you're just not like, oh man, I got to do this, I got to do that, right? But I'm saying I've worked in front of like a desk job. It's sitting in front of the computer. You got to, check in for meetings, reports need to be done and all of that stuff, right? And yeah, I'm going to give you the bare minimum. This is not my calling. This is not my forever job. I don't see myself. And look, I got to share this. Sandy, I think Sandy checked in. Sandy W, she checked in and she, Sandy, I love your comment. I got to bring this up. You said, Sandy said, I had an interviewer ask, what are my plans for the next 5 years? I said, it seems you have not been paying attention to trends. No one is giving you more than 5 years. Who asked that in 2022? I'm with you. I'm with you.
I feel you.
I'm with you, Sandy. 5 years? Bruh, that sounds longer than my damn marriage. No, I'm not doing that. You asking me to commit a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. What are my plans for the next year? I'm serious.
People
are leaving jobs left and right. It don't take nothing for somebody to be like, you know what? I don't need this. It don't take nothing. And you can have degrees, you can have the experience, all of that. It doesn't take anything for people to quit their job and to find something better nowadays. And I think companies better keep their eyes open and be like, man, we could lose this person. We could lose this person at any moment.
Agreed.
Yes, you can.
Agreed. I think that employers should care more about their employees, but they don't. And I think that millennials, we started this. And Gen Z took it to the next level, where one thing that I think we in this generation got right that our parents kind of didn't. So our parents are boomers, they're Gen X, where they just stayed there. It was like, it didn't matter how much they treated you bad. It didn't matter if they gave you breaks or benefits. They just stayed there for 30 years. And that's what you did. And they didn't move up. Whereas, or some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. Whereas now we're realizing if you move around, you can make more money, you can get more benefits, you can start to move up the chain and the ladder. And we figured that puzzle piece out very, very early on. Now, I think some of it is a little bit of entitlement. So it's like, I know we've all seen it, that one person that come in, they don't have no experience day one. Man, I hate this. I should be the CEO right now. Like everybody knows that one person. But I will say that more employers should look at this and say, what can we do in order to, the interview process sucks. The resume, they've been using it since the 1930s and they need to get rid of it because it's a horrible way to predict talent. So I think that they need to start asking questions about the person in general. Like, what do you need in order to prosper in this job? What type of experience could you bring here? Tell me how you can benefit from this environment and how can you help us in this environment? Those are the types of questions we need to be asking people.
Hey, look, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Just don't ask people to think beyond tomorrow.
Right. That's about right. I mean,
because people gonna be like, if you keep pressing me, I'm gonna just do this shift and you ain't gonna see me tomorrow.
Right. Employers do that, Beyonce, to the left. I have another one for you in a minute. And I think now employees are doing that, where it's like, okay, no, you don't, I don't get no vacation time. I already booked it anyway. I'm going to go ahead and put in my little notice and go on vacation.
Real talk. Hey, Brother King Lee checked in. Brother King Lee, my guy, you said establishing a good work foundation early on in life is important. Sometimes young employees think they are invincible. Please teach your children to stay the course. Hey, here's the thing. And I hear you, King. Here's what I think. There has to be a balance on that. Because if a work environment really isn't working for you, why stay? Why stay the course? If they're not showing you that that you are valuable, or they're not allowing you to speak your heart, to speak your mind, especially when it comes to work-related decisions. Why? Like if you are made to feel small, if the culture feels suffocating, or you feel like it's not where your values are, why stay? Why put yourself through that mental to that? And I think to your point, at least that's what a lot of, I'm part of Generation X. That's what a lot of people, like my parents did. They stayed and they were miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They worked that job and they talked about the job when they came home. They talked about the job in the morning and they talked about the job on weekends. They talked about the job on vacation. And as a child, we like, why are you? I mean, damn, Dad, like, damn, Mom, like, that's what I'm looking forward to? I need to look forward to? Why stay? There's no reason to stay.
Mm-hmm.
If the job is not fulfilling, the important stuff. I mean, if the job is not paying you enough, then you got some crazy ass supervisor from like the office. And then, you got all this other stuff happening. Why stay, man?
But to play devil's advocate a little bit, like I said, some of it is entitlement. There is a level of entitlement in the millennial Gen Z generation that I don't think we've seen thus far, where it's like, it's not about the employer treating you bad as much as I don't want to do that right now. Like, it's a lot of that too. And then we get ourselves in a situation, because one thing I will say about our parents is they had more money. The millennials are the first generation that will be poorer than their parents. And I think we do need to look at that as well. I mean, student loans, all that type of stuff, but we do need to look at that. We are not saving for retirement. They looked at that at all. So we do need to look to the future a little bit. And so I think Brother Kingley might be on to a little bit of something.
I agree. Tiana, I love your comment. Hey, King, good to talk to you, brother. Thank you. Tiana, you said, I've been on my job for 23 years. I've been quiet quitting for the last 5 years. I'm done. Tiana, please tell me what industry you work for. If you work government, I'm done. I'm going to blast you. No, let me.
A lot of these government officials been
5 years. You've been quiet quitting, Tiana.
They've been quiet quitting since day one. What are you talking about?
Yo, she said, I've been quiet quitting for 5 years. Tiana, please tell me what industry you work for. Please. I just need to know. I just want to know what job allowed you to just sit back like that. Man, oh man. Karina, you said never feel bad for quitting, because when they want to let you go, there is never any hesitation to do so. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
You be trying to play your cards right. You be trying to walk on eggshells, and they still be like, well, you remember you didn't take off a couple of weekends when we had that retreat. So we don't think this is a good fit.
Yeah.
And I've heard that. I've actually heard that. Like, you're asking, no. You're right, Karina. Sometimes they let you go for the smallest of things.
Yeah.
And the job can get petty. They want you to think so high of them, but when they do things, they can get super petty. Sophia, y'all really, like, this is confession right now, at least. Sophia said, she said, I've been quiet quitting since 2001 in the military. Sophia, we need you to be there, like, mentally, sis. We need you to be, like, mentally there. Man, okay. McCall said the younger generations are not giving themselves completely over to their jobs. Some Gen X, millennials, Gen Z are not working 30 plus years at a job. Some of them are making over $100,000 online. Yeah, I think, I read an article, and at least I was going back and forth in my mind about whether I should include this, but now that we're talking about it. But there was an article there was an op-ed in the New York Times over the past couple of days talking about Gen Xers. And how Gen Xers, how we don't, we have been in the workplace. On the low end, you could be 42. In the high end, older end, we're 57 in terms of the Gen Xers, right? Mm-hmm. And they're saying that we're in a space where we're not the boss. That in the times that we have been a boss, we just don't carry it like a boss. And part of the reason is because we're not as enthusiastic about this idea of leading people, more importantly, idea of bossing people around. Like, the view of leadership, the view of making a lot of money is starting to wane on a lot of people. What do you make of that? Because to McCall's point, you know, it's for me, I don't need to make $1 bazillion, right? Like, I just want to make enough money to take care of my family and to live in a decent way. Some people, if you still on that grind, like, yo, I need to make 2 months, you know, like everybody can't make rapper money or let me put Jay-Z money or entertainer money. You know what I mean? So what's your take on that?
I think Gen X is more reasonable. You are the more reasonable generation. Y'all are latchkey kids.
You are reasonable. You're damn right.
You had common sense. Like, you grew up, like, maybe not you because you're a little bit on the younger end, but like Schoolhouse Rock and all of this. Like, you guys had common sense around you. So I think that we grew up in the era of the internet. So millennials changed that game where things were a little bit not as analog for us. Some things were a little bit more automated. And I think that that's why, which would explain why there's a teacher shortage. Y'all kids is bad as hell because y'all don't want to lead nobody. But nonetheless, I think that's what it is. And I think that also boomers, which I read quote really quickly, that they're not retiring. So I think that there's also this place of Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. We don't have to worry about it because the boomers said, we got it. They're staying in these positions of power way longer. So maybe that's some of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think our values have changed, right? I mean, we've been talking about COVID, but I think our values and what we want to gain from the workforce. I don't think a lot of people just want to make, I mean, of course, you want people that want to break their backs. And in this day and time, I'm reading this book called The Meritocracy Trap by a researcher by the name of Daniel Markovits. And in this book, it talks about how being rich nowadays is very different from being rich, 100 years ago. And during the time of the aristocracy, rich people didn't work. Now we're in a culture where you are part of the working rich class, right? Yes, Elon Musk has he's the world's richest man, or Bill Gates, we see them rich people, but they work like insane amount of hours at the detriment of their family and all of the other stuff, right, that goes on in life. And so, it's like now this view that in order for you to be successful, you have to give yourself to your job, to whatever work that you do, at the expense of something else. And I think people are just pushing back on that. I think that has always been like the driving force, but we can say COVID, but I think that now there's an awakening, a consciousness around how we go to work. And people are saying, well, it's a job. Yes, this is something I love to do, but it's not who I am.
I agree, but I push back a little bit. I don't think people don't want to be rich. I don't think that's changed. I think people want to be rich, but they want to be rich in a way where it just like I can sit at the beach, and I think we have an unrealistic expectation of what it takes.
That's true. I think so. I think that's a good point. I think that's a very, very good point. Say it again, Lisa.
Tiana says she works in higher education.
Yeah, Tiana works in higher education. Lord have mercy on.
Can I send my degree back because my teacher was quiet quitting?
Tiana was quiet quitting in higher education. Tiana, that's why the loans don't get processed. People don't get their refund checks.
No, so I'm gonna send my little loan papers in. I'm gonna say, they was quiet quitting. I ain't paying. No.
People don't get the vendors don't get paid for 45 to 90 days because Tiana's quiet quitting. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm just joking with you. Curtis, you checked it and said, look, I had been so many signs to step out on faith and leave my job, and this conversation is validation. Well, look, hold on, Curtis. Hold on.
Wait a minute.
Hold on, Curtis. You got family, man. You better leave that job in a very strategic way. This is
right.
As much as this is empowering, right? Like, we can go on the break my soul tip, like, oh, we're gonna just leave our 9 to 5. Please, I don't want your wife or your family or anybody
Farajii
looking at you, but like, I was watching The Culture, and they inspired me to lead a job.
Yeah. No, Farajii like, no.
They used to, I don't know, at least you ever heard the term steal away?
Mm-hmm.
The steal away plan, where you just slowly start to No, it's a slow transition, right? You don't just, because they say quiet quitting, but it's like steal away, like you slowly start to separate yourself. But as you do less at your current job, you do more in finding and working in a space where you can do what you want to do for real. So it's the steal away plan, you know what I mean? But you do it on the low until everything is good for the next opportunity. Then you just quit. But that's what it is. That's what it is. People do that.
Yeah, but you was like, nope.
I don't want Curtis. I don't want your family mad at me, man. Or at least we don't need that. We don't need that.
Yeah. No, I'm listening. I'm just find. That's.
I don't. We don't need that. All right. So, you said, speaking from experience, when I was looking for a new candidate to hire, the first thing after experience that I particularly was concerned about was the amount of time they spent on the job. Loyalty. I wonder what they said, Shalinda. What did they tell you? Loyalty. What's at least very quickly as we wrap up this part? What do you consider to be a good loyalty point for being on a job? How many years? How long?
I think now, if somebody can stay at a job for 7 years or 7 to 10 years, that's loyalty. I honestly,
I had less time than that, at least.
You don't see it. I mean, because to me, 2 or 3 years, you still on the fence. You still don't know everything.
No, I didn't know. You had your job for. It's so funny because I thought 3 years.
3 years means loyal. Then I ain't loyal. I ain't loyal. Because at 3 years, I was still thinking about, you know what? I don't know about this.
If you've been through your job, think about it like this. This is 2022. If you've been at the job since 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
Given all that happened over the past 3 years, in particular, these past 3 years, you loyal. If you ain't been thinking about breaking your soul and moving on to something else, you pretty loyal over these past 3 years. That's loyalty.
6 months. If you give them a good 6 months, it's like, I tried. I'm solid. I'm loyal.
Good 6 months. Look. Depending on the job, depending on the seriousness of the job, it takes you about 6 months to 6 to 8, maybe a year. But I mean, it's a lot of these jobs, and I'm talking about the jobs that people leave from. You're not walking away from if you have a CEO job, you're not walking away from the job. A lot of these jobs are like mid-management. A lot of people working like management, mid-management, you know what I'm saying, supervisory work. It might take you a good 6 months to 8 months to probably know the job if you are serious about the job, right? Mm-hmm. But I say 3 years. That would be my loyalty. I would say 3 years. If you want a job for 3 years, that's loyalty. If you want a job for 6 months and then leaves, then I'm asking questions. But I would say 3 years. In this day and time, especially if you have a certain age. Okay,
I can see that. Yeah, there you go. I'll come down to 3 years. 3 years. There you go.
3 years. 3 years. That'll be it. I think the most I've spent I know y'all gonna be mad. I've been doing media forever. But in between time, I probably spent like close to 3 years to average. Like 2.5 to 3 years on up. Okay. And then knowing me, this is the type of work I am. It's be like, all right, okay, all right. You know what I'm saying? Because I know me, like, right. For me, here's the other thing about it, and we don't have time to talk about it today. But if you are in tune with yourself and you really believe you have a talent and skill outside of the job can feel very restricting. It can feel like a jail or prison, right? So you give yourself a little bit because you got to pay the bills and all of that stuff. But deep down inside, that little voice in your head is always telling you stuff like, we ain't supposed to be doing this. You should be doing your passion. You should be working on your business. And you like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to start quiet quitting right now, dog. Yup, that's what you start doing. The supervisor come over, Lisa, and be like, hey, nope, can't do it. I ain't available.
The people, they start taking the pictures out their cubicle. I'm like, what's this?
Hey, look, I was in a conversation with Nira the other day. She was like, let me tell you one thing you don't do with black folks. Here's the one rule you don't do with black folks. Call black folks on their day off and ask them about office work.
Right.
I was like, facts.
Right.
That's great. That is real, seriously. When I had managed people, if I knew you were off, I'm not calling you. Like, there's nothing, that's the part I'm not. That's the boundaries. If I have a legitimate day off, if I say even if that day off is because of my schedule or because I requested, don't call me.
Okay.
Don't call me. Don't email me. Don't text me. Real quick question. No, ain't no quick question because I'm going to give you a real quick no answer. Don't call me, man. Like, there's a reason it's called an off day. I'm trying to recover the first couple of hours of the day. I'm trying to remember not to go to work.
Yeah.
The last couple of hours, I got to now think about what I got to do at work. When am I off?
I saw Gen Z. She blocked her employer while she was on vacation. Why?
Oh, man. All right. Hey, Lisa, I appreciate you, sis.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. If you don't know, Lisa, of course, is hosting Millennials Anonymous podcast. You can hear it. She got all new episodes that are dropping each and every week. Make sure y'all check it out. Also, Lisa's been doing some great work with us behind the scenes. So you're going to be hearing more and more from Lisa when you here on the Black Star Network and on the culture. She's just been a great, great contributor and just a great team member to have. So, Lisa, thank you so much for all of the great work you're doing to make this show happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Thank you for my online culture crew. Thank y'all, man. Y'all make the show so good. Make sure y'all show y'all support for Black Star Network and the work that we're doing here at the culture. So many great shows. If you haven't checked them out, all the latest new shows are dropping. A Balanced Life. You got Get Wealthy, The Pivot, The Black Table. Who else am I missing? I know I'm missing some other great shows. Plus, we're trying to work on getting this whole platform to be 24 hours now streaming. So make sure y'all tune in and continue to support Black Star Network, Black media, unadulterated, unfiltered. We can have the emotional conversations. We can have the sensitive conversations. But guess what? We're going to do it in the right space, to the right spirit. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of this growth and grateful to be a part of this history-making platform. So continue to support us here at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, that's going to do it for us, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin with RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself from the process. Make sure y'all follow me on all of my social media platforms at The Real Farajii. I'm looking for some new follows on Instagram, Twitter. I'm at Farajii, Farajii, as well as follow me on Facebook. But I definitely would love to continue to have the conversations off air so we can have some great conversations on air from your analysis. So again, follow me on all social media platforms, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here only on the Black Star Network. Peace.